Museum Big Data and Audience Research in Museums in Qatar, a collaborative project between UCL-Qatar and Qatar Museums. We joined forces with Qatar Museums in order to both help them towards their audience research, towards their audience and visitors studies, and we kind of collaborate with them in many levels actually. And this project relates to putting together museum big data and audience research. Yeah. To an extent, well, this conference is the outcome of this very project, which I will be briefly presenting here today. Yeah. We had a bit of discussion about the project yesterday, where we have presented our system for sentiment analysis. So I'll just repeat today that the aims and objectives of the Museum Big Data project relate to contributing to the development of big data and data mining methods and techniques on museum datasets, to produce a policy on big data and the museums in Qatar, initiate a research team here, and explore links and collaborations with other schemes of information-seeking research and social media research. We will be presenting the three components of our project today, plus a few things about Qatar museums and museums here in Qatar. Yeah, you've seen some of them during the last 2 days, and well, we will definitely see another one today. Yeah. So, well, a new field of research and inquiry, museum big data. It seems that every day we add another V. Yeah, we started with 3 V's, velocity, volume, and variety from the literature. We added veracity, which is kind of a new thing in the literature. Well, another V is for visitors that relate to museum big data, and possibly virality for things that become viral and therefore produce, well, big sets of data. We need, or we can use big data for quantitative and qualitative assessments. Hopefully, they can help towards data-driven decision-making in terms of audience management and development in museums. Well, to the same trend, they can help museums do their jobs and provide better services. They can contribute towards policy modifications and career opportunities, as was mentioned by other speakers. In the data-based and driven world, job descriptions and job titles also change or evolve. But there are also ethical considerations that we need to take into account, and processes, privacy, data protection, abuse of power, unfair competition, and actually today's session is about that to an extent. Yeah. Now, our project is a new project on museum big data and data mining. It has been acronymized MBD Qatar. It started in December 2017, about 15 months ago. It has funding for 2 years. And, well, in the museums of Qatar, as elsewhere in the world, there is an emerging need to detect new and discover hidden and useful information, patterns, clusters, and relationships among large sums of museum-related data. So addressing this need, well, it requires ethical consideration and processes, a thorough understanding of context in the real and the digital world, and cross-disciplinary big data methods, techniques, and testing. In our project, the BD Qatar project, well, we have addressed museums in Qatar, and we will be briefly presenting them in the next part of this presentation. And we have 3 approaches: the cultural counts one, the sentiment analysis one, and the membership reward one. Yeah. Right, museums in Qatar. Well, during the last decade, Qatar has experienced fast development and radical changes. In 2008, the Qatar National Vision 2030 program, well, was launched to bring the country to a more diversified economy and to secure income for the next and probably post-carbon based economy and generations. Culture and heritage play an important part in this project in terms of education, heritage and tradition preservation, as well as a voice to be heard internationally. And that also relates to the General Secretariat for Development Planning in 2008. To support this vision, an organization currently called Qatar Museums has been established, and a number of new museums were realized and or planned, all of them in the Qatar's capital city of Doha. Some of them are complete and running, others are nearly completed and expected to fully operate by 2022, the year when Qatar will host the Football World Cup. I will briefly present the main ones in chronological order, and you can see the names on the slide. Well, it's the Museum of Islamic Art, very close to where you stay, well, in 2008, kind of the first museum of this new era. The Madhaf, the Museum of the Arab Museum of Modern Art, it is within the education city, and if you want to visit it, you can do it during lunchtime. It's very close to where we are. The fire station, which is an artist's residence and also a museum, because they are hosting many exhibitions. Yeah. The new National Museum of Qatar opened 3 weeks ago, and we will be visiting it today. The 3-1 Qatar Olympic and Sports Museum to open within 2019 or in 2020, and also other museums are planned. If you can check the Qatar Museum's website, well, you can find more information there. Well, we also have private museums, and well, the oldest and the biggest one is the Sheikh Faisal bin Qasim Al Thani Museum. You visited that 2 days ago. It's a 20-year-old museum, but it hosts a collection of Sheikh Faisal. Well, it's his lifetime collection, which keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Another private museum, well, which is actually 4 museums in one, the Musharraf museums, they are very close to Souk Waqif. They exhibit the post-oil Qatar and the economy in 4 main sub-museums, I would call them. Again, it is worth a visit, especially if you spend a few more days here in Qatar, and I'm sure, and I know that most of you are. And we have many, many, many private collections. Some of them, well, we know, some others we don't, but they keep coming out here in Qatar. Allow me a few more words about Qatar Museums, our collaborations. Previously, they were named Qatar Museums Authority, so you will see that in the bibliography too. And this organization was born in 2005 by Her Excellency Sheikh Al-Mayasa bin Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani as a chairperson. And in compliance with the Qatar National Vision 2030, their aim is to achieve a balance between preserving traditions and heritage as well as to support new cultural creation. They actively participate in multicultural dialogue and diplomacy with the Years of Culture program. QM is in charge of all public funded museums and of most of the archaeological sites, activities and actions here in Qatar. So, well, we collaborate with Qatar museums, this is a privilege and an honor, towards, well, 3 research trends. The first one, culture counts. So the Museum Big Data project aims to use culture counts in museums and in domains of cultural production in Qatar. What is this? Well, Culture Counts is a cloud-based system aimed to access through standardized metrics the impact of cultural productions in various domains such as theater, dance, opera, cinema, and museums. It has been developed in 2010 in Australia by Michael Chappell and John Nell from Praxis and Intelligence Limited, now Counting What Counts Ltd, in partnership with the Department of Culture and Arts in Western Australia. In 2012, a new trial was launched in Manchester. It involved Praxis, the Arts Council England, 13 cultural organizations, and the University of Manchester. Together, they defined some metrics to be rated by self, peer, and public assessors, excuse me, and some metrics rated by self and peer assessors only. After the Manchester trial, the Arts Council England decided to explore culture counts on a national scale. 150 institutions took part in this trial with nearly 400 events. The survey is undertaken during or at the end of a cultural event through an app to be downloaded on smart devices. Participants state their gender, age, and postcode. Then they evaluate the production with the following metrics: concept, presentation, distinctiveness, captivation, challenge, enthusiasm, local impact, relevance, and rigor. 3 more are added for the peers and self-assessors, risk, originality, and excellence. The metrics are rated by a sliding scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and at the end of the survey, the online platform shows to the participant how are their answers compared to the mean. Finally, participants have to describe their experience in 3 words. Now, in terms of positive feedback of that method, triangulating the survey between self, peers, and public assessment is very valuable, and the short length of the survey and the easy-to-use aspect of that survey were kind of positive things. In terms of improvement, well, we need a big amount of data to be collected for valid results. The cost in human resources is evaluated as too high, starting with the efforts to recruit peers and to implement the survey. The reliability of the data was a major concern, as potential bias has been identified by stakeholders. The low number of peers and self-assessors, as well as the recruitment of the public as forming non-representative samples, were discussed. Consultees have identified problems of accessibility to different publics. Non-native English speakers might have some trouble to fully understand the metrics, and the nature of the app and the sliding gesture might be inadequate to elderly or disabled populations. Textual metrics also are unattractive to young audiences, and the lack of context and qualitative value to give sense to the data was found frustrating sometimes. There are also concerns relating to the ownership of the data, access to them, and the data protection issues. While the possibility to use the same metric system for all cultural production in Qatar is promising, since for the very first time we could map audience reactions to a large and diverse and diversified cultural landscape, taking into account users' aforementioned feedback from previous attempts, Australia, Manchester, and elsewhere, as well as new feedback from a pilot phase. The language access question is particularly relevant in a multicultural country as Qatar. So we have addressed all 4 improvement bits by certain aspects, making the questions simpler, testing them, and having the metrics in English, Arabic, and Hindu. The project is about to begin. This one, we are waiting for ethics approval from both London and Qatar in order to start. But, that's the idea. That's one part of it. The second approach, sentiment analysis, which has been presented yesterday. Here's our system, Sensium. Well, you can choose the museums you're interested in from the left side. And, for every day, you get this graph showing whether people were happy, unhappy, or neutral according to their comments. And you have the chance to compare yourself to competitors, one museum with the other, as we showed yesterday. So the system gets comments and it gives, a value to comments. Okay, so, we've done a bit of this yesterday, and thank you very much for doing this exercise. Here are the results. We have inputted, your comments from your visit to Sheikh Faisal Museum yesterday. You can actually recognize your comment there. You know what you have written. We do not know and we do not want to know, simply because we want to know from the system. So, according to your comments, we had the system gave a metric from 0 to 90. 90%. So we did have a 0, and that was the comment on overwhelmed, too many unlabeled items. And we had some 90s, but not 100. In certain cases, the system provided those arrows, and these arrows indicate, that you need to check it yourself. Because a comment such as amusing, it gets, or was that the 0? Yep, it gets a 0. But it may be considered ironic. So it is something that, we need to check. And the same goes for the comment, these kids running around sculptures, really great. Okay, is this ironic? Is this good? So, well, the system gave a 90%, but also an indication that you actually have to check it. So according to the system, well, 85% is the result. So from the scale 1 to 10, unhappy to very happy, yeah? The group, well, yesterday, that visit, well, would indicate to the museum that, well, it was 8.5, quite good. But you remember also the second bit of our exercise yesterday that I asked you to actually rate your experience yourself into another card, yeah? And, well, the result was 7. So, which means that from your comments, well, the impression would be 8.5. Well, when we asked you, were you happy or not, from a scale from 1 to 10, using the same metric, well, we got a 7. And these are issues that we face in sentiment analysis in general that we mentioned yesterday. Yeah. Accuracy and veracity, well, the more the better. The more data we have, the better. That's why it falls into the museum big data, the big data scheme. We also need to have in mind what is sentiment, how long it lasts, if it is affected by just by the museum experience or other things, emotions, memories, other links, well, psychology. Well, we approach it as an interpretation by a piece of software. So a machine learning process is there so that it gets as accurate as possible. It needs to be supplemented by qualitative data from interviews, surveys, and focus groups. And, well, unhappy comments are sometimes more useful than the happy ones. Well, sentiment analysis is an insight rather than a panacea or a funding tool, and there are ethical issues involved there relating to approvals, GDPR, the way we treat data. I won't expand, we had that discussion yesterday, we can actually continue this today. Yeah. I will move on to a third aspect that we explore, and this aspect has its difficulties also, and well, I do not want to take too much of the time, so I'll just use this. It's the membership reward scheme. We have seen it working in the Dallas Museum of Art Friends project. Basically, it's something similar to the bonus points you get if you buy something from a supermarket. The idea is you get bonus points in a museum if, well, you fill in a survey, you participate in an activity, you give your feedback, you do something for the museum. Yeah, so you have a badge-less membership cards with barcodes, and a visitor collect badges from visiting a gallery, bringing a friend to a museum, identifying favorite artworks or well, whatever. And well, so they accumulate rewards and well, they accumulate points, they get rewards, and the museum, well, gets data. Qatar museums have the culture pass concept. So there is a card there that people can get, and they get discounts, information about events, and everything. This is something we explore, and we'll see if and how this will work. It has a different set of challenges. Yeah. So in terms of conclusions, well, as museum big data relates to the 6 V's of volume, velocity, variety, veracity, virality, and visitors, well, projects, efforts, well presented here, share both common and diverse characteristics. Culture counts refer to common ground evaluation of cultural actions, including museum exhibitions, activities, and experience. Sentiment analysis, well, addresses visitors' emotions and sentiments and perspectives, attempting to provide an overall agreed point in terms of whether a museum has offered a positive experience or not. And membership reward schemes address visitors' services and their promotion, examining and exploring popularity and attempting constructive evaluation. Big data feedback from visitors' actions, choices, and comments is collected, and to these ends, museums have devoted time, human resources, and funds, and have established dedicated teams of experts and researchers. More publications on these and other projects will help. We will let you know how the project goes on, and well, your feedback is most welcome. I thank you in advance for this, and well, I thank you for your attention today and during the conference. Yeah, thank you.